actions for women and girls, and also your personal interventions for myself and my colleagues at Collective Shout. For those who don't know me, Melinda Tankard Reist, Collective Shout for a World Free of Sexploitation. We wrote you a fairly, in Australia, yes, we wrote you a fairly long submission and pointed out that intimate partners in Australia are the most common perpetrators of violence against mothers here. We identified a number of factors for causing violence against women, primarily inter-partner violence, intergenerational violence, pre-existing histories of child abuse, increased violence when attempting to separate, poverty, discrimination, an overloaded system, and a lack of access to affordable housing, and lack of access to education and other opportunities, and harmful cultural practices. We recommended a tightening of bail and parole laws in Australia. Many men who have murdered or injured women, including mothers and their children, were out on bail, out on parole, and very low penalties over and over again, very light penalties for perpetrators of serious violent and sexual crimes, and weak sentencing and early release. So we did identify those aspects in our submission to you. We also focused on the issues facing mothers with special vulnerabilities to extreme forms of violence and discrimination, including mothers with disabilities, young mothers, elderly mothers at risk of euthanasia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander mothers, and migrant and non-English speaking background mothers. And we made a number of recommendations in relation to those special groups. I wanted to focus on two particular areas, one being surrogacy, and we of course welcomed your earlier call for the recognition of surrogacy as a system of violence, exploitation and abuse against women. We are facing in Australia right now the dismantling of safeguards that were intended to protect mothers and babies from the violence and trauma of surrogacy arrangements and maternal separation. These safeguards have been successfully reframed by the surrogacy industry, including lawyers, agencies and reproductive technology businesses, to enable the expansion of commercial surrogacy. And we are really facing a big issue here now with the dismantling of those safeguards. For example, in Western Australia, new legislation makes women as young as 18, even those who have not had their own child, eligible to be exploited by surrogacy agents and baby buyers. There's no requirement to have proven infertility, nor exclusions for convicted sex offenders to buy a baby. And so we've made some significant recommendations to you for our member state, Australia, for the federal government and for state governments to introduce a criminal offence of aiding and abetting international commercial surrogacy into the Federal Crimes Act, to enshrine in family law the reality that a woman who gives birth to a child is the child's mother, and to direct Immigration and Border Force officials to refer to the Australian Federal Police any persons reasonably suspected of engaging in international commercial surrogacy. And there's a raft of state government recommendations we've made as well. On top of that, I did want to mention mothers experiencing commercial sexual exploitation. Australia is a target country for traffickers, and many of the women trafficked into Australia are already mothers. Up to 90% of women in the sex industry are mothers with more than 3 children. On average, in low and middle income countries, most are single mothers, and women in the industry have typically experienced child sexual abuse as well as sexual and physical assault while being sold into the industry, and they face multiple disadvantages. And we have, of course, recommended the Nordic model of prostitution regulation as the only model that offers an exit pathway and moves towards family reunification for mothers who have lost custody of their children. Sexually exploited mothers have unique needs, and Nordic model policies can deliver for these, including expunging prostitution-related criminal records, funding rehabilitation, providing housing, vocational training, and more to support recovery, family reunification, and mothers' well-being. So we have listed quite a few recommendations related to adopting of the Nordic model in Australia. I wanted to mention, yes, I understand. My closing few lines, I wanted to mention mothers in pornography. We note the popularity of Mothers I'd Like to F-U-C-K and pregnancy and lactation genres of pornography, including a growing genre of AI pregnant porn videos. We argue that videos with titles such as, quote, pregnant punishment harm pregnant women and mothers as a class. These representations serve to degrade and debase motherhood and negatively affect the collective status of mothers everywhere. And we would like to call on member states to act to stop these harmful representations of mothers, pregnant mothers and breastfeeding mothers because of the injury that does to women as a class everywhere. Thank you.